So I'm here with ITV racing commentator Richard Hoyles, who's here at Plumpton this afternoon. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good afternoon. Excuse the hat. It's a bit chilly. Winter's arrived, doesn't it?
So first of all, we'll look back on the weekend, the three-day meeting, the November meeting at Cheltenham. Three great days of action. What was your highlight, first of all?
I think probably in terms of performance, the first couple of races ITV showed yesterday, I thought Lawler was amazingly impressive actually. He left some good hurdlers very quickly behind over fences, 3 accurate leaps over the last, and obviously he's got a good backstory in terms of the poignant success, tragic in many ways because of Richard Woodcott's departure, but if he can put Kaylee Woodcott right on the map and give them their big days in the sun, then it was a real nice story to get behind, particularly as it was on a day for remembrance. They were celebrating 100 years of the cessation of the First World War. There was lots of pomp and circumstance going on. There could be no more appropriate winner than Lawler, but he didn't just win, he was very impressive in doing so. And then almost half an hour later, So Royale was also very impressive. He might be an early season good ground horse, but it wouldn't surprise me if we don't get much rain, whether they forced to go to the Tingle Creek. He won at Sandown. His jumping was very fast and fluent. He doesn't waste any energy at all, gets from A to B very quickly. That's good at Sandown. He could just ruffle Altior's feathers slightly if the ground stays quick. So they were the 2 highlights, I think, probably both on the Sunday.
And also, not in terms of winners, on Saturday it was great to see the 2015 Gold Cup winner Coney back. Where do you think he'll go next? Possibly the Ladbrokes, or will they skip it?
Yeah, I don't think he's in that at the moment, so I think the only option for him really will be the King George, to be honest. Yeah, he surprised me. I'll be honest with you. My heart was hoping he'd run well, but my head was saying, look, he's had so many problems. That's a hell of a performance in a handicap. I think Timeform wrote that it might not be bettered this season in terms of weights and measures. He was out there on ground that was quick enough in the firing line the whole way. I think the race favoured front runners. Rock the Casbah was up there with him for the majority, but it was a fine spectacle. And one of the nice things, obviously, about Cheltenham and the home National Hunt Racing generally is the reception they give their favourites. And there was a delay while the winner comes back in, but the reception Coney got coming back in for third was extra special. So full marks to Brad Stocks. Hopefully he'll stay together in one piece, and I would imagine the King George is where he would go next.
You just talked about Coney there, obviously carrying a big weight. Another horse carrying a big weight was Tiger Roll, only 4th, I think, on his return run in the cross country. It's going to be a hard year for him under the handicapper.
Yes, I think they'll pick their battles with him. I think it's one of those where he was very weak in the market. His bigger targets are well down the line rather than closer to hand. He was a bit rusty early and he stayed on from the last. I don't think Gordon Elliott will be too concerned, but the difficulty for him, we've mentioned a lot of times that he's a small horse, he might not jump round. Of course, he's a small horse to carry big weights as well, and that might just count against him. They'll have to pick their targets carefully. Conditions race at Cheltenham back for the cross country would seem the obvious place to go in the short term, and then one would imagine we'd be back over the big fences at Aintree, but he'll find it a lot tougher this time around.
I'm sure that you had one eye on the action in Ireland. Obviously the feature over there was the Morgiana. Unfortunately Sam Crow dropped out the last minute, only just left 4 runners. And Fahim, would you say disappointed in second, or not really a surprise seeing as he was back over 2?
The surprise for me is what he managed to do at the back end of last season, if you know what I mean. I'd written him off a bit like I'd done Coney, so more for me in a way. But I found that performance at the back end of last season quite startling, really, because I honestly thought he just, whatever those ailments, they couldn't seem to put their fingers on him, had caught up with him. I think I still would have a sort of betting wealth warning for him. I wasn't convinced he was a 3-miler before he did that at the last end, and I'm just not convinced that he's durable enough these days. They can prove me wrong, and Willie Mullins may well do so, but at this stage I don't think Fahim's a betting proposition, particularly at a short price. Beaten by Sharjah, what do you make of the early season lines of form in Ireland? You've seen Sam Crow beaten, Footpad beaten, Fahim beaten. Rather strange to the start to the season over there, really.
Next big event in this country, arguably, is the Betfair Chase at Haydock next weekend, or this weekend. 9 currently in the field, 2 of which, the first 1 and 2 from last year's Gold Cup. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the ground's going to be absolutely crucial, really. People forget how sharp a course Haydock is these days. It's not the course of old with the big drop fences going round the outside. On good ground, it's quite speedy. You reach fences quickly. I'm just not sure they would necessarily want to run Native River first up in those sort of conditions. He could end up having quite a hard race without being able to get away from them. I think they'll run Bristol de May whatever, because I just think he's got a good Haydock record, and even though the mud absolutely suits him, I can't see them forgoing what is an obvious target. And then the £1 million bonus might sucker in a few more. Thistlecrack, they will just be concerned about whether he will hold together physically, I would have thought. But it might just be that this is going to prove another early season chase where the ground has an impact, and we'll have to wait for for a more competitive field further down the line, but it does start the £1 million bonus, and there'll be a few who won't want to be on the sidelines for sure.
And just finally, with the season well and truly underway now, what's your 1 or 2 horses to follow for the season? Possibly one over hurdles, one over fences.
Okay, I'll give you. Actually, I think both immediately swing to ride both over fences. Actually,
Okay.
they're both from the weekend at Cheltenham. They're both potential handicappers. One's called Lebroy, who just lost out to Count Meribel in the novice chase. He was probably flattered to finish second, really, because others made mistakes. But his jumping was very assured, and he will stay further than that 2.5 miles, and he'll handle the mud well. And he just appealed to me as the sort of horse that might make up into a nice sort of handicapper. I'll mention actually 3. Thomas Patrick's the other one. He's probably not going to get his ground for the Ladbrokes Trophy. He smacks me as a Welsh national horse. Go forward tactics, soft ground. He got the rain before that race at Sandown. He jumps soundly. I do like him as a Welsh national horse. And another one that was one of the horses that was involved in the melees that went on during the course of the Bet Victory is Bally Andy, who is dropping to a very good mark based on his hurdles form. He jumped competently. He wouldn't have got involved, I don't think. There were others that were far more unlucky than him, but he was brought to a standstill 4 out. He's got a P against his name rather than a B or a U or an F. And the handicapper might drop him another couple of pounds, and that would put him around about 135. And he's the sort of candidate for one of those 2.5 mile races, maybe the Caspian Caviar or the one that's on New Year's Day.